You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your Security Plus certification journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Infrastructure security is the discipline of protecting the foundational layers of computing, the compute resources, storage systems, networking fabric, and the management planes that control them. These components form the backbone upon which applications and business services are built. If infrastructure is compromised, higher-level controls collapse, no matter how strong they appear. Security here involves both technical and physical measures, hardening servers, encrypting storage, segmenting networks, and restricting administrative access. It also includes monitoring for anomalies, ensuring redundancy, and planning for resilience. By focusing first on the infrastructure, organizations establish a secure foundation that allows advanced capabilities, such as cloud-native services or zero-trust architectures, to function reliably and safely. Baseline configuration standards ensure consistency across infrastructure. Without defined standards, each device or host may be configured differently, creating gaps that attackers exploit. Baselines specify secure settings for operating systems, networking devices, hypervisors, and storage platforms. These may align with industry benchmarks such as CIS standards or vendor-specific hardening guides. By applying baselines during provisioning, organizations reduce risk from insecure defaults, enforce uniformity, and simplify auditing. Baseline standards also make drift detection possible, as deviations can be identified against the known secure template. This approach turns infrastructure from a patchwork into a disciplined, repeatable environment, strengthening resilience across systems. Network infrastructure controls are essential for shaping how traffic flows securely through environments. Routing protocols must be hardened to prevent spoofing or hijacking. Access control lists, ACLs, define which hosts or services can communicate, while firewalls enforce boundaries at both perimeter and internal segments. Segmentation further reduces lateral movement, ensuring sensitive workloads, such as databases or management systems, are isolated. Misconfigured network devices often create openings that adversaries exploit, so consistent enforcement of ACLs and firewall policies is non-negotiable. These controls form the defensive skeleton of infrastructure, dictating which flows are legitimate and which must be blocked to preserve trust and confidentiality. Host infrastructure controls ensure individual servers and endpoints remain resilient. Hardening involves disabling unnecessary services, enforcing secure defaults, and restricting file permissions. Patching addresses vulnerabilities in operating systems and software, closing doors before attackers can exploit them. Endpoint protection, whether antivirus, EDR, or intrusion prevention, provides runtime defense. Combined, these measures reduce attack surface and create defense in depth at the host layer. Hosts often represent the most visible points of compromise, targeted through phishing, malware, or remote exploits. Infrastructure security therefore requires a disciplined host program, ensuring every compute instance is deployed securely, updated consistently, and monitored continuously throughout its lifecycle. Storage security is a critical pillar of infrastructure protection. Encryption protects data at rest, ensuring stolen disks or snapshots remain unreadable. Access controls restrict which users or systems can retrieve or modify data, minimizing insider and external threats. Lifecycle considerations ensure that data is retained only as long as needed, then securely deleted or archived. Snapshots and replicas must be safeguarded, as attackers often target backups to disable recovery. Storage systems also require integrity checks to prevent tampering. By embedding encryption, access discipline, and lifecycle controls, organizations transform raw storage into trusted repositories, ensuring data remains protected wherever it resides. Management plane protections are essential because compromise here equates to total infrastructure control. Administrative consoles for hypervisors, cloud portals, or networking devices must be restricted to hardened jump hosts or secure management networks. Multi-factor authentication is required for administrative logins, with detailed session logging for accountability. Auditing ensures that all privileged actions are monitored and traceable. Organizations must assume attackers target management planes first, since they control entire environments. Separation of management and data traffic prevents exposure, while Bastion hosts centralize and protect access. By focusing on the management plane, infrastructure designs safeguard the most powerful levers of control. Physical infrastructure considerations extend beyond cybersecurity to supply and power. Reliable power systems, such as uninterruptible power supplies (UPS) and generators, prevent downtime during outages. Redundant network links ensure connectivity even if one provider fails. Supply chain security addresses risks in hardware sourcing, validating vendors, and verifying firmware integrity. Attackers may compromise systems before delivery, making supply assurance part of security architecture. Environmental controls such as cooling and fire suppression also protect infrastructure from physical harm. By treating physical supply, power, and environment as part of infrastructure security, organizations ensure that the foundation remains stable against both digital and physical risks. Monitoring and telemetry placement at the infrastructure level provide visibility into health and security status. Network devices must export logs, hosts should forward telemetry, and storage systems must record access events. Placement matters. Monitoring must cover trust boundaries, high-value assets, and management interfaces. Centralizing this telemetry provides correlation, allowing detection of patterns across the stack. Without monitoring, organizations operate blind, unable to detect misconfigurations, failures, or intrusions. Infrastructure observability is a prerequisite for higher-level defenses, transforming data into actionable intelligence. Visibility ensures that controls not only exist but function as intended, delivering real assurance rather than theoretical security. Backups, snapshots, and immutable storage form the resilience backbone of infrastructure. Regular backups protect against data loss from failure, ransomware, or insider attacks. Snapshots provide point-in-time recovery for rapid restoration. Immutable storage ensures that backups cannot be modified or deleted by attackers, preserving integrity. Testing recovery procedures validates that data can actually be restored, not just stored. Backups must also be encrypted and access controlled, as they often contain the most sensitive data sets. By combining backups with immutability and validation, organizations ensure infrastructure resilience. These measures transform failures into manageable events, enabling continuity even in the face of disruption or compromise. Secure provisioning processes prevent insecure defaults from scaling into systemic weaknesses. When infrastructure is deployed in bulk through automation or cloud APIs, errors multiply quickly. Secure provisioning templates enforce hardened baselines, encryption, and access restrictions automatically. Configuration management ensures new systems inherit the same policies as existing ones, avoiding ad hoc setups. Provisioning also includes verifying asset identity, applying patches, and integrating logging from the moment of deployment. Without secure provisioning, organizations risk scaling vulnerabilities faster than they can be remediated. Architecture that embeds security at provisioning creates consistency, resilience, and confidence that growth does not expand risk. Asset inventory and canonical naming are foundational practices for infrastructure hygiene. Without accurate inventory, organizations cannot secure what they do not know exists. Asset tracking ensures all servers, devices, and storage systems are accounted for, patched, and monitored. Canonical naming provides clarity, embedding metadata such as role, environment, or owner into system names. This simplifies monitoring, auditing, and incident response. In sprawling infrastructures, unmanaged assets become blind spots, often targeted by attackers. Inventory transforms infrastructure into a knowable, governable environment, enabling enforcement of baselines and monitoring. Naming conventions ensure order, reducing human error and improving situational awareness, Ultimately, infrastructure foundations provide the baseline upon which all higher-level security controls depend. Compute, storage, network, and management planes must be hardened consistently to ensure resilience. Without these protections, advanced tools like intrusion detection, cloud-native services, or zero-trust models collapse under hidden weaknesses. Infrastructure is the layer that determines whether architecture remains strong or brittle. By enforcing baselines, protecting management planes, ensuring redundancy, and embedding observability, organizations create the conditions for sustainable security. Strong foundations support everything above them. Security at this level is not optional, it is the prerequisite for every other control in the enterprise. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Segmentation at the infrastructure level divides networks into separate management, data, and service planes. The management network handles administrative access, the data network carries user or application payloads, and the service network supports infrastructure-specific communication like monitoring or backups. Isolating these planes prevents attackers who compromise one channel from immediately moving laterally into others. For instance, administrators should never manage devices across the same channel used for user traffic. Proper segmentation enforces discipline, aligns with zero-trust principles, and simplifies monitoring. When planes are distinct, organizations gain both resilience and forensic clarity, ensuring infrastructure remains compartmentalized and harder to compromise in systemic ways. Orchestration and automation are vital for managing modern infrastructure, but they introduce new risks if controllers and tooling are not secured. Continuous integration and continuous deployment, CI/CD, pipelines, configuration managers, and container orchestrators hold high levels of privilege, often touching every node in the environment. A single compromise here can cascade rapidly across systems. Protecting these tools requires hardened access, multi-factor authentication, encrypted communication, and tamper-evident logging. Architects must also isolate orchestration platforms on management networks and enforce role-based access control. By treating orchestration security as a first-class concern, organizations ensure automation accelerates security rather than magnifying its weaknesses. Host-based controls form the front line of defense against endpoint compromise. Endpoint detection and response (EDR) tools monitor for suspicious behavior, such as abnormal processes or lateral movement attempts. Host intrusion prevention systems (HIPS) block exploit attempts, while host intrusion detection systems (HIDS) provide forensic evidence of tampering. Kernel protections like data execution prevention (DEP) and address space layout randomization (ASLR) further harden systems against memory-based exploits. These defenses are layered on top of basic hardening and patching, creating runtime resilience against sophisticated adversaries. Hosts are often the first entry points into infrastructure, so robust host-based controls are indispensable for systemic security. Firmware and hypervisor update practices ensure the underlying platform remains trustworthy. Attackers increasingly target firmware because it operates beneath the operating system, often invisible to traditional tools. Similarly, hypervisors control multiple virtual machines, making them high-value targets. Organizations must apply vendor updates, validate firmware integrity, and track lifecycle support for both firmware and hypervisors. Tools like Secure Boot and hardware attestation help detect tampering. Neglecting updates here undermines the foundation of the stack. If the platform itself is compromised, everything above it inherits the weakness. By embedding update practices into governance, infrastructure remains both modern and defensible. Encrypting data paths ensures confidentiality and integrity across infrastructure services. Encryption in transit protects data flowing between systems, whether inside the data center or across the public internet. Encryption at rest protects files, snapshots, and backups from exposure if physical media is stolen or cloud accounts are compromised. Infrastructure designs must specify where encryption terminates, how keys are managed, and which protocols are mandatory. Neglecting encryption in just one path, such as internal API calls, creates exploitable blind spots. Full lifecycle encryption ensures data remains protected end-to-end, aligning with compliance mandates and protecting trust at the infrastructure level. Resiliency patterns embed redundancy and failover directly into infrastructure. Redundant power supplies, failover clusters, and multi-availability deployments ensure systems continue functioning even when individual components fail. For example, a cloud environment may span multiple availability zones so that if one region fails, another takes over seamlessly. These designs extend high availability principles down into infrastructure, minimizing downtime and preserving trust. However, redundancy must be diverse as well as duplicated. Two devices sharing a single power feed are not true redundancy. Infrastructure resiliency requires careful mapping of dependencies to ensure one failure does not ripple into cascading collapse. Access controls for infrastructure APIs and orchestration endpoints protect against abuse of powerful management functions. Cloud providers, virtualization platforms, and automation controllers all expose APIs that allow provisioning, scaling, and configuration. These interfaces require strict authentication, role-based permissions, and auditing. Multi-factor authentication should be standard for administrative access, and machine identities must be validated carefully. A PI exploitation is a growing attack vector, as misconfigurations or weak permissions can allow attackers to manipulate entire environments. By embedding strong access control into these interfaces, infrastructure architects reduce systemic risk and ensure automation remains under trusted authority. Centralized logging and immutable ledgering provide forensic readiness at the infrastructure layer. Centralization ensures logs from routers, hypervisors, storage systems, and orchestration platforms are aggregated for correlation. Immutable storage, such as append-only ledgers or write-once media, prevents attackers from altering forensic evidence after compromise. Logging should include both security-relevant events and administrative actions, such as configuration changes. Without centralization, investigations become fragmented, and attackers can hide by tampering with local logs. Immutable logging ensures accountability endures even under adversarial pressure, transforming raw telemetry into trusted records that can guide both response and compliance. Incident containment techniques at the infrastructure layer allow defenders to isolate compromised systems rapidly. Hosts may be quarantined by removing them from orchestration pools, or networks may be segmented dynamically to cut off malicious flows. Storage systems can revoke access tokens, ensuring compromised identities cannot persist. Infrastructure designs must provide these capabilities natively, not rely on ad hoc measures. Containment at this layer stops attackers before lateral movement spreads, protecting broader systems. Strong architectures treat containment not as optional but as an operational necessity, ensuring defenders have levers to act decisively when breaches occur. Supplier and vendor controls extend infrastructure security into external dependencies. Hardware vendors, managed service providers, and cloud operators all contribute to the overall trustworthiness of the environment. Contracts must specify patch responsibilities, vulnerability disclosure timelines, and incident response obligations. Organizations should also vet supply chains for tampering risks, ensuring firmware and hardware originate from trusted sources. Vendor dependence does not eliminate accountability, it extends it. By embedding supplier governance into infrastructure security, organizations reduce exposure to risks they cannot control directly. Supplier diligence transforms external dependencies from liabilities into accountable, resilient components of the environment. Continuous verification and vulnerability scanning preserve infrastructure hygiene. Automated scans detect unpatched devices, weak configurations, and drift from baselines. Continuous verification validates whether controls like encryption, segmentation, or logging remain in place. These activities prevent security from stagnating, ensuring infrastructure evolves with threats. Vulnerability scanning must occur not only at endpoints but also across APIs, orchestration systems, and firmware. Verification adds a layer of trust, proving architecture functions as intended rather than assumed. Without ongoing hygiene, even hardened infrastructures degrade. With it, organizations achieve sustained resilience, ensuring foundational protections remain current and effective against evolving risks. Ultimately, infrastructure security is a continuous program of configuration, monitoring, and governance. Baselines, segmentation, and encryption provide strong foundations, while monitoring and logging deliver visibility. Governance ensures updates, vendor oversight, and verification remain consistent. Security at this layer cannot be static. It requires discipline to adapt to new vulnerabilities, scaling pressures, and operational demands. By treating infrastructure as a living system, organizations embed resilience at the core of their operations. Higher-level defenses depend entirely on this layer. When infrastructure security is continuous, proactive, and disciplined, the rest of the enterprise gains a reliable foundation for long-term protection. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.